Avenue. In February, the council approved a conceptual plan for University Avenue. And since that time, city staff and the consultants have been meeting with various stakeholders along University Avenue and talking about issues that they raised at that meeting, about issues they have, concerns, and some other issues that are raised by citizens. So a couple of councilors asked for an update by Mr. Gaines, and so he's going to give that at this point. Update on University Avenue since the February time.
Thanks, Mayor. As you mentioned, there was a concept that was approved in February, and what we've been doing since that time, working within the concept of that design on University Avenue. And one of the things that you should remember in the course of this whole project is really what we're taking is the original intent of that road was basically a 6-lane divided highway between two communities, and now we're turning that into an urban arterial and trying to address all modes of transportation in that. So the concept you saw in February was really a wide concept. It didn't dig into the details of design very much. What we've done in the following months is we've been working with property owners, trying to refine that design and really narrow the design. And what I'd like to do today is really kind of go into a number of those property owners that we're working with. Right now, we're really concentrating our efforts on Grove Street to about Hillcrest Avenue, which is just beyond McLean. But that's really what we're looking at and hoping for next year at this particular time that would be under design or under construction contract at that time. So as you, just really quick, some of those updates that we'd like to talk through really quick today would be the Deery property, Hong Kong, Amigos, Waterloo Road intersection, Cedar Heights Pet Clinic, and a couple of the pedestrian crossings and some left turn in. This is Mr. Deery's dealership that is right down there, really close to Grove Street. And what you see on the left is the original impacts. And as we went and tried to refine the roundabout, the double roundabout that's located right under Highway 58, just because of the geometry, it was very difficult to include everything that we wanted within that corridor. Met with Mr. Deery, went back and looked at the impacts. We were able to reduce that by a square footage, which was over 50%. Went back and proposed that to Mr. Deery, and still he wanted us to look at some additional information. So what we've done is, this is a little bit bigger drawing, a little bit bigger scale drawing, but one of the options that we looked at is actually routing the trail, connecting it into the existing trail on Idaho Drive back there, and routing that along through Boulder. Still connecting a 5-foot sidewalk in front of his dealership, connecting back into the trail system. Well, we actually met with Mr. Deery today, and some members of our team actually met with him here in City Hall and then actually out on his site looking at some of these improvements. And I think what he agreed to is we have some options out there, and he'd actually like to continue to explore some of those options. If you look at the corner of University Avenue and Boulder Drive, we're actually trying to stay away from that corner. Unfortunately, with that, I can zero in on that just a little bit here. And what you can see is our original impacts showed that we were actually getting into that right away quite a bit. And we only have like 38 square feet that we're looking at obtaining from Mr. Deery at this particular time. And right now that's actually existing sidewalk, and what this would be is formalizing that, making sure that that's on city property. Here is, when you saw the original concept back in February, one of the problems that we had is trying to figure out the geometry, and with 3 concepts being in front of the City Council, we didn't want to go into any one of those 3 design very far. So what you saw was basically a worst case scenario. And in that particular worst case scenario, you see that Hong Kong was actually going to be required to have a full take, and what we would look at doing there is creating an ingress-egress along Holiday Road. One of the things that we've been able to work on is actually saving the building and looking at the geometry along there, and then providing an ingress-egress that would be across from Famous Dave's. One of the things that we're a little concerned with, we met with the owner, and he really likes this particular plan. But one of the things we're concerned with is just cut-through traffic, and so we'll continue to work on some of those details as we go through. Again, the original, as late as January, this was one of the original concepts that we had coming in off Waterloo Road. And as we further designed that particular concept, we ended up with modifications 1 and 2. The first modification coming in from Waterloo Road on this particular leg of the roundabout took up about 20 parking stalls, and they really had no access to the frontage road for the business of Amigos. One of the design challenges here is really to balance how that right-of-way is going to be established, and making sure that we can maximize both businesses, not only Amigos, but Signs by Design. And we think in modification 2, we've done that. Unfortunately, we still have some impacts to the to Amigos with their parking stalls, but we believe that there's going to be a good flow of traffic around there. So we've reached out to both of those property owners as well. And this is one of the original concepts that came through there. And one of the things that we saw from a traffic perspective on Waterloo Road is the original had the slip lane, very similar to what it is today. We were pulling that a little bit away from the homes there. But we also noticed that if we go and totally eliminate the slip lane, we still maintain the same level of service out there, and the function of the roadway stays the same. So we have looked at that. And this is a little bit past the limits right now, but we're working with the Cedar Heights Pet Clinic and establishing one of the concerns that Mr. Jorgensen had in that area was access to his business off Round Street and University, and those two particular access points will stay. And moving forward, here's just a couple other modifications and things that we've heard through, whether we're talking to property owners or council members or the school district or just general citizens that are in the area, is the added crosswalk. What we're looking at doing right in front of Subway there is that would be a trail extension that would be a mid-block crossing for pedestrians. We haven't got all of the design details worked out, but we've identified that as one of the solutions that would be very good along that particular corridor. Some of the other three design things that we've added in there at Valley Park Drive, making the south leg of that a 3/4 access, so you would be able to, if you were westbound on University Avenue, you would be able to make a left into the Hy-Vee parking lot. You would also be able to take a right. If you're headed eastbound, the movement that you wouldn't be able to take in this particular location would be a left turn going northbound onto Valley Park, or a straight through movement. We also have put that same type of an intersection control at Royal Drive. And really what we're trying to do at Royal Drive is maximize the amount of traffic that can actually get to the businesses in that mall area with Buffalo Wild Wings and the music store and those particular businesses in there. We also have that 3/4 access that would be going into the Blackhawk Village area that would kind of split right in between, I believe it's Happy Liquor Store and Cost Cutters that's right there at that particular location. And really, again, this was meant to be a brief update, and those are some of the more major things that we've done with regard to the design alterations at this particular point. Again, we're concentrating that in that Grove Street to Hillcrest Drive area to try to get everything wrapped up for a bid package for later this year, so we get that under construction and started next year. And so with that, I can address any questions or concerns.
Yeah, Mark.
Terrific. Thanks for working hard with businesses, and this is exactly what I think, at least I think the majority of council is hoping how this process would work.
We still have quite a bit of work to do with a number
Absolutely.
of the businesses and residents out there, but I I think it's really, again, as you start to scale that down and get more defined in what that design is, we can tell exactly what those impacts will be.
Are we,
done.
as of right now, Ron, are we still on track for a letting late this year?
That's-
Are we going to be able to
That's really
achieve
what
that?
we're hoping for. So that's, the consultants are here this evening, and that's what they're tasked moving forward with.
Other questions? Specific?
Mayor, if I could, one of the other things I just wanted to give a real brief update on is we have been seeking a Tiger grant.
Right.
And as I briefly updated last week, or 2 weeks ago, we've got some real positive feedback, but one of the things that you'll see coming forward and probably next council meeting is a resolution of support. What we're looking for is about $12.5 million for this particular program. And this particular grant, Tiger grant, is aimed at large projects like this. So they can't even entertain a grant award of anything less than $10 million. So,
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that Tiger grant dollars go towards more of a complete street. Designs like this, is that what that money is set aside for, is that kind of development?
there is a number of criteria. Complete Streets is one of the alterations. You know, they actually look at port projects. They look at pretty much any type of a transportation project you can think of except air service. So they have their own separate granting. But this, when we were able to meet with some of the staff at Tiger Grant, they said that this would look actually as a favorable project. We went through a lot of the details with them, and so we'll continue to move forward with that.
Nick?
I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but in the mid-block crossing on University near Dallas, was that specifically incorporated to address some of the crossings for school children?
Yeah, actually, there's a number of pedestrians that make that crossing, and Pete Junior High is one of those because they have a trail that actually comes down in that area. The other thing is there's a number of parking lots in that area, and workers go right across in that particular area. So we're really hoping that that captures both of those pedestrians.
Okay.
Would you be able to sometime, and I know you will eventually, but provide some visual of what that might look, what a crossing might look like? Would there be signage or lights or pavement a different color, or how do we ensure that these are going to be safe crossings?
Yes, I
without
don't
lights?
think, we're not quite that far. What we're able to do is identify a really good spot for a mid-block crossing. We just haven't got into the design of what that'll look like yet.
Jim?
Can you speak to the timeline on the Tiger grant?
Yes, Tiger Grant, actually today, the pre-applications were due. We submitted ours about a week and a half ago, and it is June 4th that the entire grant application is due. So once they get those, then it'll be a selection process, several selections that you'll go through to get into that September, October time period when they finally select who will be awarded.
Yes.
Is this still under budget?
Actually, what I would say at this time is it's still on budget.
On budget, okay.
Again, we're still, when we get done with this phase and really set the alignment, what we're going to be at is about 30% design plans. And then we'll really get into some of the nitty-gritty of the elevation, infrastructure, all of that. Right now, we're still just trying to determine what the alignment's going to be.
So obviously, if there's less
Yeah.
right-of-way acquisition of buildings and so on, that's going to reduce some of that
And
right-of-way cost.
we have not, since that last iteration of, I believe this particular alternative was at 32.5 million.
Right.
I don't believe, we haven't got into any greater detail on.
Right, but less right-of-way acquisition is less cost, less buildings you're buying is less rather than more.
Ron, at
Yes.
a later time, can you let me know with the alterations that are being made, what that does to the level of service or the grade that the road got? Remember, we had the A, B, C,
Yep.
D, E, F?
And right now, so far, with those three-quarter access and the slip lane, my understanding is a corridor still has a level service B, which is excellent for a corridor like this. So I can get you that final stuff as we get closer in design.
Any other questions of Ron? This was meant to be an update and no decision because we haven't. It's
Good
not
work,
a-
Ron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next time we have a public hearing, proposed amendments to Chapter 29 zoning code of ordinances relative to C3 commercial districts. Have you received and filed
Move
proof?
to receive and file proof of publication.
Move to second. Moved and second. All in favor